On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the MotoGP Spanish Grand Prix, the 3-hour race at Laguna Seca, and the Formula One Miami Grand Prix. Let's do it. Hello everybody, and welcome back to RevHang. I am your host, Nathan Nevue, and alongside me digitally is my good friend and co-host, Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
It's a beautiful snowy day in May, and I'm ready to talk about some racing.
Yeah, you guys are getting some inclement weather up there. How's that been?
It's cold. I just want it to be sunny. I have things to do outside.
Yeah, well, it is mid-May now, so hopefully the sun is just around the corner for you.
Yeah, I was real jealous of the weather at the Spanish Grand Prix for MotoGP, and especially the Miami GP weather. It looked so warm there.
Oh yeah, it was very warm in Miami for the Formula One race, and it looked pretty nice for the Spanish GP as well in MotoGP. And speaking of which, why don't we just dive right into MotoGP? We've got a few races to talk about, so we'll start there. So the Spanish Grand Prix was at the Jerez circuit, used primarily for MotoGP. Most other car series don't race there because it is purpose designed for bikes. So after the start, Francesco Bagnaia, he had a really good start, and he led the entire race. This race wasn't super exciting. Not gonna lie, there wasn't a ton of action. But Bagnaia rode a great race, along with Quartararo, who spent his entire race stuck right behind Bagnaia in second place.
I'd say the highlight of this race for me was the battle for third for that podium spot between Miller, Marquez, and Espargaro.
Yes, Miller, Marquez, and Espargaro had a pretty heated battle towards the end of the race. With about 4 laps left, Espargaro actually went to go past Jack Miller, and Marc Marquez made a mistake. He was in third place ahead of the two. He was in fourth place, my bad. Because he passed Miller, so he would have been in third place ahead of Jack Miller and Aleix Espargaro. And then Espargaro went to pass Miller. Marquez made a mistake in front of them, and Espargaro ended up overtaking both of them in one corner, which was pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, that was a really close race for the three of them for a long portion of the race. I was surprised how close they were staying to each other for as long as they did.
Yeah, that was the two big races at the front were between the top two, and then the next three. Those were the big scraps, and then there were a couple of championship contenders that actually crashed out in the middle of the race, like Johann Zarco and Alex Rins. They crashed out early on and were not able to recover to the points, as is pretty much the case if you crash in MotoGP.
Yeah, it was rough to see Rins, who was doing so well in a lot of the early races this season, just kind of lose that opportunity to score points this time.
Yeah, it was too bad. Speaking of losing the opportunity to score points, Jorge Martin crashed, and he has DNF'd now 4 of the 6 races that we've had so far. And that's not the ideal start to the season, I'd say.
I'd say consistency is key, but maybe not in this respect.
Yeah, maybe you might want to flip the script on that one a little bit. But he is guaranteed and has already signed a deal with Ducati, and he will be in the sport next year riding for Ducati, which is kind of one of the top teams in the sport. I would say the equivalent to Ferrari in Formula One is Ducati in MotoGP. But yeah, he definitely wants to turn his season around so that they don't have second thoughts on that deal. Because in racing, anything can happen.
Especially with Francesco and Jack Miller running such great races for Ducati this race.
Right. Yeah, they're going to want him to be up there with them, riding on the same kind of level. But yeah, that was pretty much all that happened. There wasn't too much overtaking after the start. No one really cut through the field at all. It was really just straight line kind of. I don't really know what else to say. Yep. So I guess we'll just go into the results. Winning the race was Francesco Bagnaia. Coming in second was Fabio Quartararo, followed by Aleix Espargaro, Marc Marquez, Jack Miller, Joan Mir, Takaaki Nakagami, Enea Bastianini, Marco Bezzecchi, Brad Binder, Paul Espargaro, Miguel Oliveira, Alex Marquez, Maverick Vinales, Franco Morbidelli, Luca Marini, Andrea Dovizioso, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Alex Rins, Remy Gardner, Lorenzo Savadori, Jorge Martin, and then the 3 DNFs were Stefan Bradl, Johan Zarco, and Darren Binder. Lots of names. Lots of fun names there. Okay, now let's talk about the championship. We'll give a general championship update since it's been a few weeks. In first place in the championship is Fabio Quartararo with 89 points, followed by Aleix Espargaro with 82 points, and Enea Bastianini with 69 points. He is tied with Alex Rins at 69 points for third place, actually. And fourth place is actually tied as well. Or, well, I guess it'd be fifth. But, yeah, pretty close up at the top. Anything to change?
So in MotoGP, is it kind of the same point scoring system as Formula? I'm not super familiar with it.
Give me 2 seconds. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I am on RevHang.com looking at the standings right now, and I can tell you.
Oh my gosh.
Get that little plug in there.
That was very smooth.
Alright, so first place is 25 points. Second place is 20 points. Third place is 16. Fourth is 13. Fifth is 11. Sixth is 10. Seventh is 9 points. Eighth is 8 points. Ninth is 7 points, and then I think it just mirrors down all the way to 15th, where you get 1 point.
Huh, interesting.
Yep, so it looks like top 15 drivers get points, which is markedly different than F1.
Yeah, that's interesting. So all the way down to Takaaki Nakagami scored points today.
Yeah.
Neat.
Well, he's in 15th in the championship.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong one. Never mind.
Yeah, Franco Morbidelli scored 1 point today, or this last race.
There you go, yeah.
That sums up our short take on MotoGP. Now let's move on to IMSA. We had a 3-hour-long race at Laguna Seca, which is my favorite track in the United States.
Such a good track.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, we had the Monterey Sports Car Championship about a week ago. It was the week before the Miami GP. This is the classic IMSA race we've been talking about with the DPI class, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD. So we'll start with the DPI race. It started out pretty uneventful. Albuquerque, well, it was Ricky Taylor actually, started the race and took a pretty early lead and drove off into the distance a little bit until the number one of Sebastian Bourdais had a technical failure, which caused a full course yellow, and that slowed everybody down a little bit. But after that, Tom Blomqvist, after the pit stops, was able to undercut Albuquerque, who was in the first place car at the time, and passed him with the fresh but hotter tires, while Albuquerque's was still warming up. So the undercut is still a thing outside of Formula One, which is nice to know.
Although you'll notice in this race, off the results, it wasn't quite as effective.
Yes, so Blomqvist passed Albuquerque, but then Albuquerque absolutely sent it 3 wide into the corkscrew, which is one of the most famous corners in the United States. You don't go 3 wide through the corkscrew, but he did, and it worked.
But yeah, it's impressive to see what drivers from IndyCar, DPI, etc. are able to do through that stupid downhill corkscrew on Laguna Seca.
So for people who don't know the track and are unfamiliar with this corkscrew we're referring to, it is a Laguna Seca is a racetrack that goes up and down a very large hill. And so at the top of the hill, there is this turn to the left. It's basically a 90-degree turn to the left into a 180-degree loop downhill 6 stories to the right. It sounds insane, and it is. I literally cannot hit that corner right whenever I drive that track. I can't do it twice in a row, for sure.
It's so difficult.
The braking zone is uphill. It's
such a weird corner. It drops almost 60 feet from turn 8 to the exit of turn 8A, which is kind of that intermediate corner in the corkscrew. It's absurd. It takes all the weight going up the hill off of your front wheels, and then it slams it back down as you're going down. So you understeer as you approach the crest of the hill, and then you oversteer once you hit mid-corner, and it's just really difficult to nail if you're not used to it.
Yeah, if you get on the gas a little too much, especially on the way down the hill to the right, you will definitely spin out, and we saw that happen a couple times last year in the IndyCar race, and we did see a couple of drivers go off at the corkscrew during the IMSA race this year as well.
We also saw Roman Grosjean last year. Didn't he essentially jump over a car in the corkscrew?
I don't know about that.
I'm pretty sure I remember that. I'll have to look that up
He
again.
did do something insane. I do remember he, at the very least, had a crazy moment on the corkscrew. I don't remember exactly what happened, but yeah. No, that
it's a challenging
nuts.
track.
It's a very hard track. All the corners are unique and have their own sort of personalities. Turn 1 is super long. Well, it's actually turn 2 technically. It's a super long left-hand hairpin that you have to hit 2 different apexes to do it correctly, and it's very difficult to get the braking right.
Yeah, we saw a couple of drivers spin out there on the IMSA race today.
Yep. As well as turn 4, which is another long left-hander up a hill, off camber to the right. So again, if you get on the gas too much, you're gonna spin out. It's wild. This track is nuts, and I love it, and most people love it.
Yeah. Another challenge of this track environmentally is it's so dusty around that area. All the curbs are dusty, so we saw a couple of drivers hit the curb or just nip into the dirt a little bit too much, and it essentially just removes all the grip from whatever tires decided to venture onto the curb too far. And we saw a couple of crashes because of that too, actually.
Yeah, on the exit of turn 4, if you go wide into the dirt, you will get your 2 right-hand tires dirty, or dusty at the very least, which decreases your grip actually quite considerably, more than you would think. And then there's a very fast right-hand turn right after that corner, so there's not enough time to get the dirt off your tires. So if you go into the dirt at the exit of turn 4, you have to be prepared to not have the amount of grip that you would usually have at turn 5, which some drivers forgot about and ended up in the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, can you tell that Nathan and I play a lot of video games with Laguna Seca in them?
Oh, yeah. We know the track pretty well, and I've never been there. I've never probably been within 10 miles of there.
This year I'll go to Monterey Car Week and see it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That's really exciting. You get to go this year?
I think so. I'm going to try.
Nice. That'll be fun. All right. So the DPI class ended up... the winner ended up being Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque, followed by the car driven by Oliver Jarvis and Tom Blancfist, and then in third place, Pip Durrani and Tristan Nunez. So moving on to LMP2, yeah, this class was extremely uneventful. Really nothing happened. It was a straight line of cars mixed through the field, and after the start, there was pretty much no racing in this class, which kind of stinks. But there was some action. Juan Pablo Montoya, former F1 driver, IndyCar driver, you name it, he's driven it. He spun in the pit lane, which was very odd to see for a driver that is so experienced.
And it took him a while to get back going, too. He just kind of sat there for a little bit.
Yeah, he probably stalled, if I were to guess, but I don't know. So the results for the LMP2 class was winning the class, John Ferrano and Louis Delatraz. In second place was the car driven by Dwight Merriman and Ryan DL. And in third place was the car driven by Henrik Hedman and Juan Pablo Montoya. So even though he spun in the pit lane, he still got on the podium. So nice job to him. All right, moving on to the GTD Pro class, which is GT3 cars essentially driven by professionals. So there were a ton of GTD Pro cars in this race, and a lot of them were actually battling with the LMP2 cars. They seem to be pretty close to the same speed, even though they're very different in how they work.
Yeah, I think the track really benefited the GTD Pro cars and kind of reduced the margin that you'd normally see. There's a lot of traffic for those LMP2 cars with the GTD Pro cars so close.
Yeah, I think that might be part of the reason why there wasn't a lot of great racing in LMP2 is because the GTD Pro cars were mixed right in there.
Yeah, well, even with the DPI cars, they're some serious... one of the reasons Albuquerque was able to stay in front, and also some of the reason he almost lost it, was just because there's so much traffic to weave through at a lot of these corners.
Yeah, he did have a couple of moments with traffic, and that 3-wide overtake was also... one of the cars was a lapped car. I think it was just a regular GTD car, and then the other car was Tom Blancfist. I can't say his name right. It's the QV
it's really
that
difficult.
throws me off.
It's so many consonants. We're sorry, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was that. The class leader ended up winning by over 30 seconds, so there wasn't really a battle for the lead, but there was a 3-way battle for second at the end, which was entertaining to watch. But the results for the GTD Pro class, winning the class was the car driven by Matt Campbell and Matthew Jaminet, followed by Jack Hawksworth and Ben Barnicoat, and then Connor DeFilippi and John Edwards. Moving on to the GTD class, which is the same cars as the class before, but driven by people who don't have as much experience. They were pretty scrappy at the back of the field for the whole race. Lots of wheel banging and people shoving people off the track. You can tell that these guys are really going for it, trying to get.
I always like watching the GTD non-pro class. It's always entertaining to watch at the very least.
Yeah, it's because like these drivers are still obviously really good, but they are not professionals. So it's kind of a little different. They oftentimes pay for their own car, and so it's kind of just different in the mindset of racing. You're kind of paying to do it rather than getting paid to do it. So that I can imagine is where a lot of the mindset comes from. But yeah, there were tons of accidents in this class, as you would probably expect.
Yeah, we definitely saw a trend of some AMGs getting a little comfy with the tire walls in some corners.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, that was the car that went off the track and got his tires dusty and then didn't make the next turn. It was one of the Mercedes cars. I don't remember exactly who it was, but the BMW cars ran really well. They were first and second in class. So good job to BMW. This is their first year, I believe, in this series, and they've been picking it up over the last couple of races. So it's good to see them doing well when they're kind of rookies in the sport this year.
Yeah, almost makes up for the way that they look.
Yeah, I don't like the new M4s or any of the M series. The way they look, at least. It's just the grill is too large.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, that is a topic of conversation for another car podcast. But yeah, the class was really close at the end too. The top 5, I believe, finished within like 10 or 15 seconds of the lead car. So it was pretty packed all the way through. It was only a 3-hour race, to be fair, but still, within 15 seconds in a 3-hour race, to have the top 5 is pretty cool. So the results for the GTD class winning the class was Ryan Hardwick and Jan Halen. Yes, that is Jan Halen, not Van Halen.
I blinked for a little bit there.
It's all good. Second place was Robert McGinnis and Jeff Westfall. In third place was Robbie Foley and Bill Oberlin. So we're not going to go through the standings for these cars over the course of the season, really. We might go through about halfway, maybe for the summer break, the F1 summer break. I think we'll do a podcast about halfway through that. Maybe we can dive into the standings so far then, but I think it's just a little too convoluted to go through everything with all of these different classes going at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good call, especially since we have a brand new Grand Prix to talk about.
Yeah, let's move right into Formula One and the Miami Grand Prix, the inaugural Miami Grand Prix.
The inaugural Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix.
Yes. I forgot to add the sponsor in on this script. My bad.
Oh, it's not worth talking about.
Right. Yeah, I might as well just stop now. Anyway, the qualifying was pretty crazy. This kind of I had during the whole weekend, I just had this Monaco vibe. It just feels like Monaco or Baku. It's just such a tight street circuit that's super ruthless if you make a mistake on it.
Yeah, and that's part of the part that I like about this track, so far at least. I think there are definitely refinements that they can make to certain areas, but overall I was pretty impressed with the layout and the kind of racing that it generated.
Yep. Qualifying was pretty close at the top. Leclerc ended up on pole, followed by Sainz and Verstappen. And then I don't think anybody crashed during qualifying, actually. It was all during the practice sessions where we had tons and tons of accidents and red flags everywhere. There were people going into the same wall over and over again.
The prerequisite Sainz crash.
Yep, we had the prerequisite Sainz crash, so you can check that off of your Formula One bingo. We should do that. That'd be a cool idea. We'll start.
That'd be kind of entertaining.
Bingo. Yeah, I'll think about how we could possibly implement that in the future.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the race. In the first part of the race, at the start, Max got a pretty good start, ending up alongside Carlos Sainz in turn 1. He ended up getting better traction and passing him in turn 2, putting him in second place until, I believe, lap 9, where he then overtook Charles Leclerc and had the lead of the race. But Russell did not have a good start. He started, I think, 11th or 12th and then dropped to like 15th. So he made his race pretty hard, but he did actually quite well. So we'll talk about that a little more later. But then Schumacher kind of had a little scrap with Tsunoda a little bit on lap 7. Guan Yu Zhou then had a mechanical failure, and I feel really bad for this guy because he's had 2 or 3 DNFs, and I don't think any of them, other than the crash at Imola in the sprint race, I don't think any of them were his fault. I think it was the car.
Yeah, no, it's pretty unfortunate considering the racing that we've actually seen out of him when his car works.
Yeah, he generally does pretty well, at least up there kind of in the top 10 area.
At least getting points, which as a rookie in F1 is pretty impressive. It's no small feat.
Yeah, points is kind of the big goal for rookies. If you can get points, you generally had a pretty good weekend. But after that, Max took the lead out, of course, and then Daniel Ricciardo dove down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda on lap 10. This was one of my contenders for overtake of the week. Didn't end up getting it, but he braked so much later than Tsunoda, and you could see it on the broadcast. You could see the speed change. Like it was nuts how late Ricciardo broke, and he was, he has the nickname the last of the late breakers.
Yeah, a certified Ricciardo moment right there.
Yeah, earning his nickname, the Honey Badger in action.
Yeah, too
But
bad he didn't get a little more action during the race.
yeah, this race wasn't too exciting either. Unfortunately, most of the race was pretty dull. But it did get a little spicy at the end.
Yes.
But after Ricardo passed Tsunoda, it was kind of just the DRS trains around the track for 10, 20, 30 laps. Norris and Alonso had bad pit stops that set them back a little bit. Norris's was actually really bad, and he got stuck behind some cars, stuck in traffic, and was really unable to advance in the field after that. So that kind of sucked for him. And then,
But
you know,
not as much
his
as
race
it was
didn't.
going to.
Yeah, right. His race wasn't going to get much better after that. So on lap 20, Sergio Perez called over the radio saying that he was losing power in his engine. And every Red Bull's heart just sank because we had a feeling we knew what was coming next. But
yeah, everybody's waiting for it.
Yeah. But he regained power and was able to continue, but he did lose about 7 seconds on one of the straights.
Yeah, that was rough to watch because, I mean, he was just pretty consistent. Didn't seem like any technical problem on his part in terms of racing. It just, the car was all of a sudden just not as fast.
Yeah, he was right behind Carlos Sainz. It seemed like he was kind of pacing him and just biding his time, waiting to pass him when he kind of had better tires or whatever. But, yeah, he lost about a lot of horsepower. And until they were able to fix the engine and get him going again, he was super slow. But it was kind of funny to listen to him argue with his team when his team was telling him, no, the engine's fine, you're good, keep going. Fine. He's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, and then his engineer realizes, like, oh no, we have the Mercedes button switched on.
Yeah, the brake magic.
Yeah. Your car automatically drops 10 seconds versus the race leader.
Oh, yeah. So Perez regained power lap 21, and then the pit stops really started happening with Hamilton diving in on lap 23, followed by Leclerc on lap 25, and Verstappen on lap 27. And then Sainz and Perez both pitted on lap 28. Most of these pit stops were pretty good. I think Sainz had a really bad one, but yeah, no, Sainz had a bad pit stop, which set him back kind of closer to Perez. And if Perez did not have that engine problem, he would have jumped Sainz in the pit stop. So that's kind of unfortunate.
Yep, and then we had a nice little meeting of minds between Gasly and Norris later on lap 40.
Yeah, Alonso and Gasly collided on, I think, lap 38 or 39, which did some damage to Gasly's car and made it way harder to drive. So he made a mistake on lap 40, I believe, going wide into one of the turns, which sent him wide into the next turn. Like I said, this track is ruthless and punishes mistakes. So he came back onto the track and wasn't quite checking his mirrors as much as he should have been, and ended up veering into Lando Norris, who was driving by rather quickly, and ended up getting tagged on the back right wheel and spinning out. It was kind of a miracle that he didn't hit the wall. Now that that was my big really thought impressive. There. He spun in a straight line down the track.
Yep, he did the full 360.
Yeah. So that kind of was too bad for Norris. He didn't really have a great race, and that's probably not how he wanted it to end, because that's quite the build for McLaren to fix that.
It's just a bad weekend for McLaren overall.
Yeah, I honestly was expecting it. I don't know if I was expecting it to be this bad, but after their problems in Bahrain being primarily due to heat, and then everybody complaining about the heat in Miami, I had kind of a sinking feeling that McLaren was going to struggle, and they did.
Yep, on such a tight course where you're maybe not getting as much airflow as you would on a higher speed track, heat buildup's definitely still a problem, it seems.
Yeah, and I can imagine humidity was also... I don't know how much humidity really affects engines, but I mean, you're intaking essentially water, I guess. If it was super humid, I don't know what the humidity was there, so I don't know why I'm saying this, but just a thought.
It's Florida, we can assume.
We can assume that was my thought process there.
Yeah. No, I wish I had more input on that, but I live in the desert, so I have no idea what this humidity thing is that you're talking about.
It's nice sometimes, unless it gets too high, and then it's kind of not nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just think sweat in the air.
The air is sweaty. Okay.
The air is sweaty.
Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, so Gasly and Norris collided on lap 40, and a safety car came out on lap 41 after a virtual safety car was out for the lap before that.
Yeah, it took him a long time to implement that full safety car.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. It seemed pretty obvious to me that it was going to need a safety car the second the incident happened, considering where it was. But
yeah,
they decided to stick to a VSC for a whole lap before they decided to pull the safety car out.
Yep, which Russell pitted during that virtual safety car, didn't he?
Yes, Russell pitted during the virtual safety car, and Perez also pitted during the safety car for the medium tires. So I don't remember what Mercedes did, but I seem to recall that they went in and then they went in again because they had that much of a lead or something like that. But because Hamilton was on softs for like one lap and then he changed back to hards, I think is what happened, which was strange. That's the second time they've done that this year. Or no, I think Aston Martin did that in Australia, but it was just strange. I'll have to look into that and as to why that was. But Perez also pitted for mediums, and came out right behind Carlos Sainz again. So he really just got a free pit stop, free fresh tires, to attack Sainz with for the rest of the race. But unfortunately, he really couldn't make any headway because when he got his engine fixed, they had to sacrifice some horsepower just to get him going again. So he lost about 25 horsepower in his engine, which is quite a hefty chunk when it comes to these small percentages. F1 cars are different.
Yep.
So he was losing some time down the straights and was not really able to catch Carlos. He did catch up to him one time and was able to attack him one time into turn 1.
It was such a good look. It was so close.
It was so close. If he didn't lock up, he would have made it. But yeah, he kind of did a dive bomb down the inside of Carlos Sainz in turn 1 and locked up just a tad and went just a little bit wide, and Carlos was able to drive back past him.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Speaking of being really close on things, my heart sank when Mick had a little bit of a collision with Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel did collide. I don't remember what lap it was on. It was late. It was late in the race.
Yeah.
But
I think there's 10 or 7 laps to go.
Something like that. Yeah. Schumacher, I put the blame on Schumacher. It was kind of, they both sent it a little bit, but it was Vettel's corner. So
yeah, Mick was fighting really hard for those points with Ocon, and I think he let that blind him a little bit and just sent it a little bit too hard.
Yeah, he'll get his points eventually. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, we saw great racing from him this weekend, so I have no doubt that he's capable of it on any other track.
Yeah, he was running 10th, 11th most of the race, so he did have a very good race, and he was ahead of his teammate the entire weekend. Kevin Magnussen seemed to struggle a little bit this week.
Yeah. Magnussen ended up... Did anything ever come of the contact between him and... I can't remember who it was, but I remember he was under investigation a couple times during this race.
I don't think anything came out of it.
Gotcha.
So, not that it affected anything anyway.
Yeah, just a disappointing weekend for Magnussen, but pretty promising for Mick, despite the result.
Yeah. But in the closing laps, we had Verstappen and Leclerc fighting it out a little bit. There was a little tiny battle towards the end of the race, but it wasn't too eventful. I think Leclerc sent it on Verstappen around the outside of turn 1 once. Didn't end up working out. But that was pretty much the whole race. It ended up being a Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz podium.
Yeah, I do always like it when it comes down to, it's not super, super far distance between first and second, and Verstappen and Leclerc seem to be pretty well matched this entire season so far.
Yeah, in the post-race interview, Verstappen and Leclerc were asked what the biggest difference other than tire wear was in their cars, and Max responded with the color. So
that's pretty good.
It seems like they know that their cars are pretty evenly matched, and so I think it's going to be a battle between these two for the championship. I really wanted Sainz to get into it, but he's just really not looking like he's got the measure of Leclerc in that Ferrari.
Yeah, no. And I would like to bring up the fact that Verstappen continues his record of finishing first in every single race that he finishes.
Yes, for the stats, Ben.
The statistics are still... He either DNFs or wins.
Yep, he has won every race he has finished this year.
And I'm going to bring it up every single time it happens.
Yep. So, well, let's go through the results. First was Verstappen, followed by Leclerc and Sainz. Then Perez, Russell, Hamilton, Bottas, Ocon, Albon, Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Latifi, Schumacher, Magnussen, Vettel, Gasly, Norris, and Zhou. So notably, Albon scored 2 points this week for Williams.
Yeah, and Ocon rather, had a really good race this weekend too. I mentioned previously that he was fighting with Mick for points towards the bottom of the points, but placing 8th after starting pretty far back in the field for pole, or for qualifying. It was pretty impressive.
I don't remember if did he finish? He finished ahead of Alonso, right? Because Alonso had a 5-second penalty.
Yeah.
Alonso actually,
Alonso was out of the points, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, Alonso finished 11th in the end.
Yeah, so, great race out of Ocon.
Yep. So that knocked Albon up to 9th from 10th, so he got an extra point because of that penalty. But the fastest lap was Max Verstappen, and the driver of the day was also Max Verstappen.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for qualifying, Verstappen would have had another Grand Slam.
No, because he didn't lead every lap.
Yeah. Well, he was pretty close to it if he had started better in qualifying.
Yeah. Well, I guess, if he got pole position, he might have led every lap.
Yeah.
That's a fair assumption.
We like making assumptions around here.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Big whole thing. We're really good at it. And
as you'll see
wrong.
with our predictions for this week's race.
Yeah, exactly. We're never wrong. Just we're never wrong, Ben.
Statistics.
Stats. They never lie. All right, so let's just talk about this weekend in general. I think the presentation of the event was interesting. There were some interesting choices made. It was so strange. It was like they just tried to shove America in the world's face, and it just didn't come across well.
Not even the cool parts of America.
No.
It was like, I would have much rather seen racing than shots of David Beckham or George Lucas or whoever else was happening to hang around the paddocks during the race.
Yeah, there were so many celebrities at this race. It was kind of a who's who, which is weird. It just, that's another reason I think it kind of felt like Monaco, is it felt more like an event than a race, really, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there were tons of celebrities. They had football helmets on the podium instead of their Pirelli hats they usually wear. They each had a football helmet.
I know, that was the weirdest thing.
That was... I cringed so hard when Leclerc walked out, or Leclerc or Sainz, whoever it was, with the football helmet on. I was like, they can't be serious. And then I saw Pirelli stamped on the front of it. I was just like, I lost all faith in Miami. uh,
Like, sure, I get it. It's in a football stadium, but I mean, it's just so weird. I have expected the trophies to look like Lombardi trophies. For
yeah,
which,
it was.
if you don't know what that is, essentially it's the Super Bowl trophy for like the big football game of the year for NFL. It's essentially a big rectangle with the football on top. It's very shiny.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Is it seemed like everybody was comparing this event to the Super Bowl. There was
Yeah,
it seemed like every 30 minutes they're like, oh, this is like the Super Bowl in Florida. It's a huge event. It's drawing this huge crowd. It was compared to the Super Bowl at least 5 times during
yeah.
the
Which,
broadcast.
all due respect to the Super Bowl, but I think this might have been a little bit bigger than a Super Bowl. I don't think
Honestly,
they
yeah.
generally have pool parties and yachts stationed outside the Super Bowl for people to watch the game from.
Yeah, it was it. I read somewhere that it generated more money than the Super Bowl did in Miami a couple years ago. So that's pretty nuts, and just shows the scale and just the scale of the amount of money that passes through F1, and that this kind of just one-off event in the U.S. generated more money than a Super Bowl, which is just wild to me.
Yeah, what did you think about Max Verstappen's ride in the little electric vehicle thing?
The little Jeep golf
And
cart thing.
that was so weird. Everybody
Yeah,
got to the cool down room and the podium before him.
yeah, he
So
he got this ride in this little Jeep golf cart thing. It was very strange, and they had a police escort to the podium, which was just another
riding through the
Americanism.
stadium hallways
Yeah, it's
with
like
sirens
passing the
on.
locker room.
And if
It wa-
you've never heard police sirens in the US, they're very loud.
Yeah, and they were in tight concrete corridors. Like
Yeah,
it's probably ear piercing. I can't even imagine.
it's almost unbearable if one drives by you on the highway.
Yeah,
So
so there was
it
just
was
so much weird.
it's so weird. It was like a fever dream.
Yeah, very strange. But I mean, along with that, the broadcast I felt could have been better. I feel like the choices that they made were not great in terms of what they showed on screen and when.
Yep.
We missed Alonso and Gasly colliding, which there was a whole battle before that, so there was really no excuse for them to miss that. But then we missed another battle between, I think it was Vettel and Albon and Stroll. And we missed the Vettel and Schumacher collision too. We just got to watch all these on replays like 2.5 minutes after they happened.
Yeah,
Which
I
just kind
remember
of sucked.
watching it, and they're just showing. I don't remember what they were showing at that point, but over on the left side, you saw the leaderboard. Just all of a sudden, there's this flurry of activity around the 10th place, and I was like, "What's going on?" Man, it'd be cool if there's some way that the camera could show this.
Right. Yeah, there's all this activity, everything's moving around on the scoreboard, and we're just watching Leclerc following a second and a half behind Verstappen nonchalantly. So that just, yeah, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then I just really hope they get rid of the fan shots. They need to stop.
Yeah,
The fan shots where they close up on a group of fans. It's like, I get it, but this isn't a football game and there's no stoppages. Like, show the race.
yeah. Which there was a shot that I liked that was kind of from at the top behind the grandstand, so you kind of saw the audience and the fans from behind, but you also saw the cars go by, which is kind of a cool audience POV perspective. But
Isn't that long
that,
left-hander, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of cool because it gave you perspective just on the speed and what was going on from the fans' point of view. But all the other fan shots are just so weird. So many shots of people playing in the pools, which there were pools and a sandcastle at the GP, apparently.
Yeah, there were pools,
Yeah.
there were fake pools. Uh the fake water in the Marina. It was a little wild, but yeah, one of the fan shots that really really kind of upset me was they cut to this lady and then she goes, "Are we on?" and then just started screaming. I was just like, why? this is obviously set up. Like I just want to watch the race. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge deal. It would just been nice to see other things. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, at least we had some good racing to go along with it.
Yeah. But yeah, Red Bull's been having some reliability problems still. Like, it seems like they haven't gotten on top of their engine in terms of longevity.
Not quite, no.
Because
even with no problems, AlphaTauri's placed 12th and third. No, I'm looking at the wrong thing again. Let's see. Tsunoda placed 12th, and Gasly was 18th. Granted, Gasly didn't have the greatest race in terms of avoiding contact with their drivers.
Yeah.
But even the AlphaTauris, who had no reliability problems necessarily, just haven't been doing super well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if they're gonna get on top of it, and even if they do, I think it's too late. Like, Verstappen's gonna hit penalties in the next 6-7 races, and they're gonna continue to have penalties for the rest of the season.
Yep.
So it's wild because Verstappen had another engine problem in, I think, free practice 2 or 3, where he missed basically the entire practice session because his engine was imploding again.
Yep.
But yeah, they really need to get on top of it, and I think Verstappen's also on his like 3rd or 4th gearbox, and so it's just they're really running out of materials, and they're not going to be able to go the rest of the season without penalties. So that's going to, I think, play a huge part in the championship, is the reliability of the Red Bull engine. Obviously, I mean, that's the most obvious statement in the world, but
Yeah, well, it kind of sucks to see. You kind of always hope that all the cars are dead reliable and you get to just see the driver's skill. But such is life, I guess.
Because now at the end of the season, we're going to have all the Leclerc fans and all the Verstappen fans screaming at each other about how Max got unlucky and should have won the championship because his engine broke so many times. I can already see it happening. I can't imagine Twitter getting any better in a year.
Put that on the bingo card.
Yeah. But on the other side of the things, Sainz had a really good race for Ferrari, which is good to see him kind of back on track. Hopefully. He's had a rough couple of races before this, but he finished 3rd on the podium and got some good points for Ferrari, and so I would say it was a successful venture for him this week.
Yeah, it was good to see Sainz have a good race for once, even if his practices were a little bit rocky.
Yep. And then moving on to Mercedes, George Russell is just Mr. Consistency. He's still finished top 5 in every single race. And
he's been doing great.
Yeah, considering he, at the beginning of the race, was in 15th place and then managed to battle all the way back up through the field when no one else was really passing. He was the one person that really cut through the field to the top. He did get lucky with that safety car and was able to get a free pit stop, essentially. But that really only gained him, I'd say, 8 to 10 seconds in the long run, which jumped him ahead of Hamilton, but that was about it.
Yeah, because he started further back than Hamilton, didn't he?
Yeah, he started in, I think, 11th or 12th, and Hamilton started, like, 6th, I believe? 5th or 6th?
Yeah. I think so.
So.
Same row as Bottas, so I think 6th.
Yeah, because Bottas started 5th, that's right.
Yep.
Haas seems to be struggling now. They have consistently, I'd say, for the last 3 or so races, been kind of 14th, 15th. This race, Schumacher did well. He was up in 10th for a while, but, that form of Magnussen getting P5 or whatever it was in Bahrain just didn't really seem to stick, which is kind of sucks, because I wanted to see Haas do really well this year.
Yeah, I wanted to see them carry that momentum forward. And they continue to have just on and off again qualifying performance.
Yeah, it seems like they kind of get, I don't know if they get caught up in traffic and are just unlucky or what it is, but they'll qualify really well in one race and then next race just not really be anywhere, even though it doesn't really seem like their pace has dropped off. I think it's just another factor, again, of the cars being so close together that just different tracks are going to suit different teams, and, maybe Haas just hasn't gotten their track in the rotation in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, maybe Coda, they'll be able to channel a bit more home field advantage.
Hopefully they don't have to wait that long. That's in October, so hopefully they can get kind of on track before then.
With my luck, it'll still be snowing.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be snowing again, by the time Coda hits. So,
yeah,
I think this is a really promising track. The race was pretty boring, I'm not going to lie, but I don't think it was the track's fault. I think it was the conditions. It was really hot. The track was brand new. It hasn't been rubbered in or anything yet. I don't know if it's going to be like that every year or what the situation's going to be like, but there are a solid few overtaking opportunities on the track. So I think it could be a good venue for races in the future. Even if this race wasn't super great, the first race in Azerbaijan wasn't super great. It was pretty similar to this, actually, where nobody really crashed, and it was pretty uneventful. But we know that Azerbaijan has the ability to generate some craziness.
Yep. Yeah, the main improvements I'd be looking for at Miami are, in terms of track itself, hopefully just a little better surface prep. It's kind of entertaining to see the drivers really challenged on track surfaces, but I think it might help a little bit with the racing through the corners to have a bit more consistent surface.
Yeah. A lot of the drivers were complaining about the really tight 1-2 chicane kind of about halfway through the lap. But I actually liked it.
I like
looks
seeing them
really
challenged.
tough, and that's what I'm thinking is it looks really, really difficult, which is why they're complaining, but I think that's also good because it means they have to take it easy and not push too hard through there. They're going to pay the consequences like Max almost did in one of the practice sessions.
Yeah, and then please, Miami, just fix the podium ceremony.
Yeah, let's not do that again, please. That was not a good representation of Americans.
No, that was... Yeah. Anyways, should we talk about the championship update?
Yes, we have a championship update for F1 as well, because I don't think we've done one yet, and that kind of feels wrong. So, in first place in the Drivers' Championship is Charles Leclerc at 104 points, followed by Max Verstappen at 85, and Sergio Perez at 66. George Russell's in fourth, Carlos Sainz is in fifth, and Lewis Hamilton is in sixth. I'm trying to see if there's anything notable past that. Not really. Bottas is in 8th.
Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda breathing on Daniel Ricciardo's neck for 11th.
Yeah, Tsunoda's beating Gasly at the moment.
Yeah.
Didn't see that
that's
coming.
not something I expected.
Ocon is thrashing Alonso, but Alonso's had kind of some bad luck in the last few races, so...
It's been hit or miss. Yeah, it's great to see Ocon break the top 10.
Yeah. But we'll go to Constructors' Championship. In first place is Ferrari, followed by Red Bull Racing and Mercedes. And then in fourth is McLaren, followed by Alfa Romeo, Alpine, AlphaTauri, Haas, Aston Martin, and Williams.
Yep. Yeah, really, at this point, the only two teams competing for first are Ferrari and Red Bull. Mercedes is over 50 points behind Red Bull.
Yeah, it's a two-horse race at this point. I can't see Mercedes really getting back into it, even, because I could see them getting to the point where they're consistently finishing, 5th and 6th, But yeah. I don't think we're ever going to see them really challenging for the top. We might see a couple more Mercedes podiums this year. If some craziness happens at the front, which tends to happen a couple times. But I think the battles that are going to be interesting are McLaren, Alfa Romeo, and say Aston Martin Williams will be fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, AlphaTauri versus Haas. That's not
That could
something I
be
thought I would be seeing this season.
could be interesting.
Yep, and then Alpine versus Alfa Romeo. Alpine might have an opportunity to catch up to McLaren if this race was any indication.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Alpine's actually looked really fast all year. It's just they seem to have bad luck so far, and kind of just
Yeah.
in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, they really just
But
need to have less bad luck than McLaren at this point, though.
yeah, that's hard to do. Well, not hard to do, I should say, having less bad luck than McLaren at the moment.
Yeah.
But anyway, we will move on to our overtake of the week, which I gave to Philippe Albuquerque overtaking Tom Blomqvist at Laguna Seca in the corkscrew. I just couldn't not give it to that.
Yep, that was gutsy.
Yeah. All right, now we'll move on to the Pit Stop Championship. Coming in first place, surprise, surprise, the man himself again, Sergio Perez, followed by Max Verstappen. So, Red Bull on top again.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah, and McLaren actually had some pretty poor pit stops this week, so kind of a shocker from them. Usually they're up there at the top.
Yeah.
But Daniel Ricciardo got 10th place in his scoring 1 point. So the top 10 were Perez, Verstappen, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Gasly, Ocon, Russell, Stroll, Latifi, and Ricciardo.
Yep, very good job to those drivers for really getting out there and getting those tires changed.
Yeah. takes a certain skill set. But yeah, so the spread between first and 10th was 0.847 seconds. So pretty tight in there. And most of that was actually between, well, not most, but a good chunk of it was between first and second, because Perez's pit stop was over 0.3 faster than the second fastest pit stop, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
But then first to 19th, which was there were only 19 pit stops this race, was 3.63 seconds. And Carlos Sainz had the slowest pit stop. His took forever. A long time.
Torturous.
Torturously slow. All right, now my, I think, new favorite segment is our predictions, because it's just always so bad. Even though we're always right. Let's talk about Miami. I'll let you talk about your picks, and then I will choose first for the Spanish Grand Prix predictions.
Okay, so my first was Verstappen, followed by Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Norris, with Russell as my dark horse potentially doing well. Russell did do pretty well. Norris did not. Yep. So obviously I had Sainz and Perez mixed up there, but I'm actually feeling pretty good about that prediction.
Yeah. I had Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, Verstappen, Ricciardo with my dark horse as Norris. So I'm not feeling too good about that one. I got Leclerc right.
This is a rare win for me, I think.
Yeah, you got this one for sure. I had both McLarens doing well, which didn't happen. I had Perez beating Verstappen, which didn't happen. I had Sainz beating Leclerc, which didn't happen. So, awesome. Who was your fastest lap prediction, Ben?
I had Perez for my fastest lap prediction. So, right team, wrong driver.
Yep. I had Leclerc, so wrong team, wrong driver. Driver of the day, you had who?
I won. I had Verstappen.
You had Verstappen.
Verstappen was driver of the day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I won.
You did it. See, we're always right.
Finally.
And I had Magnussen, which was also correct. All right.
Anyways.
Top 5 for the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. Trying to remember how this track tends to who this track tends to suit. And I want to say
How much gravel is there?
Oh, there's a bit of gravel, so Sainz might be in trouble.
Yeah, it's worrying.
But let's see. I am going to say Leclerc wins this one. And then Verstappen, and then Perez, and then Sainz fourth. And I'm going to say Fernando Alonso fifth.
What? Shock and awe.
Yeah. And then my dark horse will be George Russell.
Okay. I think for mine, I'm going to have to go Verstappen just to be the contrarian first. Followed by Leclerc. I think Perez third makes sense. And then I'm going to put Russell fourth. I don't think Sainz is going to finish. I think there's no chance. There's gravel there.
There's very dangerous. Gravel. So we'll see.
Yeah, he gets tunnel vision. And then for fifth, I'm going to say fifth is a tough one. I'll put Hamilton fifth. And then my dark horse, I'm going to put Ocon.
Okay. So both of us going with an Alpine driver doing pretty well.
Yep.
I'm just saying Alonso because it's the Spanish Grand Prix. That's pretty much my reasoning there. So
he's the Spanish driver at least, or the most resistant to gravel traps.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't want Sainz to go and get stuck in the gravel in his home race. Please don't say that. Oh, in front of all of his home fans. No, I don't wish that on him. Fastest lap prediction. I am going to say I'll say Verstappen.
I'm going to go Verstappen too.
Okay. Driver of the day, I'm going to say Fernando Alonso.
I'm going to say Russell this time.
Okay. Any reason why?
Well, if he has another really poor qualifying and then manages to finish fourth like I have him, I think that deserves a driver of the day. He'll be driver of the day in my heart.
There you go. It could be like how it works in the F1 video game, where the driver of the day is just automatically whoever had the most overtakes in the race.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, honestly, I feel like is a pretty good system, but it's not how it works when fans vote, so...
Yeah, oh well.
Yeah. How are, moving on to our just general discussion segment, how are things going with your racing team?
Oh, man. So we gave the car a test fire last weekend, or this week, and fired right up, did great, and we are currently cutting out our pedal box to completely redesign it. So that's where we are right now. So hopefully we get out on the chassis dynamometer to get a tune set and get some testing done this Wednesday, and then hopefully our first drive day for the car this coming weekend on Saturday. We have,
awesome.
As of on Thursday, no, Wednesday? Thursday. Anyways, we have about 30 days, a little more, 34 days until our competition, so we're entering the crunch phase right now.
Fun stuff.
Yep.
I will definitely want to keep myself informed on that. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to the wonderful people before we sign out, Ben?
Pray for the end of the snow, please.
Okay, let's pray that Ben stops freezing.
I need to mow my lawn.
Alrighty, well, thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode of RevHang. If you'd like to follow our thoughts and opinions on the motorsport world, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RevHang Media. If you have any thoughts or questions about racing, or even about us, post a tweet at #RevHangPodcast, and we may even feature your question on the next show. If you'd like to learn more about Ben's race car, you can follow his team at OIT Racing on Instagram. You can also follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld, and or myself at 2n_squared. While you're viciously surfing the internet, hitting every follow button we offer, go check out our website, RevHang.com, where you can find updated standings for the racing series we talk about, along with our horrific predictions for the F1 season. We will return in 2 weeks to talk about the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. But until then, I have been Nathan.
Like, follow, subscribe, all that if you want to hear more opinions on the Miami Grand Prix.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
We'll see you next time.